All right, thank you, Patrick. Good morning, everybody. If you don't know, so yes, I am Patrick's brother, but what he didn't tell you is I am his favorite younger biological brother. You could see the resemblance. When we were really confused why we don't look alike, more alike. He was born in Oregon, and I was born in Taiwan. And I didn't know this. Maybe some of you that are still in high school have heard this. When you cross the Pacific, if you have a baby in America, they look one way, and when you're on the other side of a Pacific, they might come out looking a different way. But no, so that's what happened. That's why we look a little different, but we are biological. No, I'm just kidding. For kids that are really worried about that, no, I am his favorite adopted younger brother, I'm just so always thankful to be here visiting this church. I lived here in 2011 for a straight year. I went down to Harding, and I just came to love this church family, being a part of it. Many of you have met my lovely wife, Damaris, and we were married in April of 2024, and we are currently expecting our firstborn in April of next year. So thank you. Yeah. So we're so grateful to be here visiting family and visiting church family. I am going to try and make this nice, short, and sweet for you guys because I was actually talking to one of your members, and they're like, oh, you're speaking. I don't know if it was worth risking my life to come to church for, I don't know who you are. I've seen you around, but we're about to find out. I could have been in front of a fireplace watching online just like you guys. See, you knew with weather, you're like, something's up, something's wrong. I'm going to stay home. So I don't blame you. You guys have been talking about waiting, and I love it. Listening to Patrick's lesson last week, it made me think. He brought up Simeon and Luke, and it also made me think of people that had the worst wait. So you have Simeon who waited most of his life to see Jesus as a baby. And even when he saw Jesus, he was just so thrilled. He's like, I can die in peace, which is what he tells the Lord. You can now take your servant. I can die at peace. I have seen the salvation that you have brought for people here. And then you have the disciples. And so Simeon sees him when he comes into the world, and then you have the disciples that get to live amongst him, live with him for 3.5 years, and then he spends the night with them. He eats a meal. Imagine being with your best friend, and you think everything's okay, but he keeps telling you he's going to die, and you're like, okay, I don't really understand what this means, but okay, Jesus, I trust you. And he takes you through a meal. He washes your feet. You go out, and he's teaching you more lessons, and you're still not putting all the pieces together. And then later, let's just fast forward. Many of you might know the story where it's like they go into the garden, they get ambushed in the garden. Jesus gets taken to trial, and then he dies. The crucifixion, as my dad mentioned, he dies, and then the disciples have to wait 3 whole days for Jesus to come back. Like the waiting, we think we have this excruciating waiting, but the disciples, they thought Jesus was going to come and conquer the Roman Empire. They thought Jesus was going to just sweep things and make it right, and that they were waiting for that, but he died, and now they're like, well, now what? So Simeon waits most of his life for Jesus as a baby, and now the disciples have to wait 3 whole days, and they're excruciating. And then, well, we know the end of the story. Sorry for a sneak peek for Easter, but Jesus comes back to life. I know we're fast forwarding. I already saw Valentine's stuff. I don't know if you guys saw that. Anyway, speaking of fast forwarding, so we fast forward to Easter, and Jesus comes back, and for 3 days, excruciating waiting, and then Jesus ascends to heaven. He gives them the command, go out into all the world, make disciples of all nations in my name, and teach them what I have commanded you. And now they're waiting. Now it moves on to the disciples who go throughout the world, and then we come to where we are. And now we are waiting for eternity. We're waiting for Jesus' second coming. So all these big gaps of waiting, and we think we have it hard. Or like Simeon waited a whole life just to see the beginning of the amazing story of Jesus' life, and the disciples see the middle, and now we're here to see the conclusion of it all. And we are waiting. And for me, I don't know if you guys have struggled with waiting for eternity. But I will say I have, as I became a Christian when I was 15 years old, and I remember you're so excited, you're ready for this moment, and like, Grace is anticipating this moment, and you're ready for the future and what you're going to do, or hopefully you're going to live out your faith in a certain way that you're like, yep, I'm moving closer to Jesus, taking the next step to Jesus and towards eternity, and I'm ready for that. But at 15, after a few weeks, after a few months, it was like, I don't know what's supposed to happen now. I don't know what it's supposed to change. Like, I felt really great about getting closer to eternity, but I don't know how much farther is eternity? What am I supposed to do in the waiting? What am I supposed to do? Do I just sit? Do I just sit and wait? Now, I just want to say this is not the production's fault. So I threw some slides together, and I told them what I was going to do today, and I'm sorry, I'm going to just throw you off completely. Because we're going to try and get through this, because my wife and I are going to leave today for a 30-hour drive, and you guys got to go home before the snow comes. So we're going to try and get through this. So do we wait when we are not sure how to wait for eternity? I feel like sometimes we make the mistake of waiting for the promise of Jeremiah 29. Jeremiah 29, verse 11, where it's like, I know the promises that I know what I have planned for you. Says the Lord. To plans for welfare, not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. So those are the verses we hear as kids. Those are the verses we hear in the church. I can't wait to be following Jesus and for my welfare and everything to be just so good. And the life of following Jesus is going to be better. And you hear that all the time. Give your life to Jesus. It's the best decision you'll ever make. And it is. But the waiting, I never heard about the waiting. You guys have. Now I'm sure you guys are pros. Patrick set me up. I know I'm waiting. But waiting for eternity, what am I supposed to wait for? And I think we get distracted with everyday life. Because I was waiting for Jesus at the bus stop, but I guess he's not coming today. So, while we're here on earth, I need a job. So I'll go get a job. Let's get a better job than this job. I might as well start a family. I might as well do this. I might as well buy a new car. I don't know. I might get 10 years out of it. Eternity might be 10 years away. It might be 20 years away. I don't know. And we get distracted with the everyday living and the monotony of all that. And we're like, I'm waiting for Jesus. I am just waiting. I'm just waiting, Jesus. Just come when you please. I'm just waiting. And we're not sure what to do. And I just want to put out this thought of actively waiting for Jesus. We can be waiting, but God calls us to live a certain way as we wait. And actively waiting can sound like a contradiction of oftentimes someone's like, stay here, wait, don't do anything. They're wait for this. But Jesus says, he gives us several commands. And when he tells the disciples, go out and make disciples and tell them what I've commanded you, he's commanded several things. So when I think of actively waiting, this is my challenge for you, for us as Christians, as followers of Jesus. Actively waiting for Jesus means you're setting your eyes on things above, as you love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and you love your neighbor as yourself, because everything, one of my favorite passages, Matthew 22, everything, the law, the prophets, everything that we look forward to depends on how we love God with everything, and we love our neighbors as ourselves. And how do we do that practically? It's by being the hands, the feet of Jesus. And we point people to Jesus, help them take their next step, help them go into all the world with the rest of us and make disciples of all nations and teach them to obey all that he's commanded. And this is what he's commanded. Wait for me. I am going to prepare a place for you, but in the meantime, you have the best thing I could give you, my son, my grace, my love, my mercy, everything. I've poured it out on you. Wait, but actively pour it out. Actively seek me. Actively lead people closer to me while you wait. That's what he's asked to do. I hate waiting. I really do. Like listening just to one lesson of Patrick's, I hate this lesson. I hate this series. Like I am really bad at it. And like you mentioned last week, for preachers, it's really hard because you have to take time to reflect because you can't just point the finger at everybody and be like, you've got to wait. Me, I am not going to do that. I was reminded of how much I hate waiting. This Christmas, we're at my parents' house, and we're like, let's watch a movie. What should we watch? And my loving nephew was like, let's watch all the Lord of the Rings. I'm like, yeah, sounds good. No problem. Let's watch it. By the way, I don't know why. I can't log into my account. And so he logs into his and says, by the way, there's commercials. Guys, I don't do commercials. Like, I don't know if you guys have Spotify. I have had Spotify since I was 19, and I've never gone back. Whenever I'm in somebody else's car and there's a jingle, I'm like, what are you listening to? And like, what is this? I don't know, Jiffy Lube. And they're like, it's a commercial. I'm like, what is that? And then I was with another friend of mine, and he goes, yeah, when I told him about watching Lord of the Rings with commercials, I was reminded when he said, a friend of mine said, I love watching other people's accounts that have commercials. I get to watch my favorite movie 5 minutes at a time and watch 15 minutes of commercials. If you think about that with Lord of the Rings, 5 minutes of watching Lord of the Rings and 15 minutes of commercials, and we watched the extended version. Whew! We barely finished this morning at 4 a.m. No. It's miserable. I hate waiting and like actively waiting. Like I am good at actively waiting. Really, I'm good at scrolling on my phone or doing anything else to preoccupy myself from doing anything that's probably productive or reasonable in life. But like I hate waiting, and then actively waiting, that is a confusion of like, okay, you want me to wait, and I hate waiting for like when someone says, we need to do this, I might be done between 2 and 4 hours. You're like, I want to spend time with this person, but they're not going to be ready for 2 or 4 hours, so how do I actively wait for them? Like, I could start this project, but it's probably going to take this long, so I'm not going to do that. I could do this, but it's probably going to take this long, and then you just don't do anything at all. I don't know if you've ever been in that weird limbo with family and friends where you're like, I can't do anything because I'm waiting for you, and I can't start this project, and I can't finish that project, so I'm just stuck. And I think we blame God for that. Like, God, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. How do I wait? It's like, well, why don't you go love somebody today? Why don't you talk to someone? Why don't you do this? Like, I have commanded you multiple ways of what to do while you wait for me. I was also reminded of one of my favorite videos. I'm going to show you this video. The voice in the background is my counterpart in Sacramento. His name is Jordan. And this video is of his 2 kids, his oldest son, Elijah, and his daughter, Lucy. And we were testing to see how they are at waiting. So let's take a look at how they do in this waiting scenario.
Joe, okay, look at me. Look at me. You can't eat them until I come back, okay? So look at Lucy. Don't eat them until I come back. You didn't get me.
All right. You guys can just feel, you're like, oh yeah, I've felt this. You felt this deep in your soul of like, yeah, those days where you're like, God, why today? Why today is there a snowstorm and I'm gonna start driving 30 hours? Like, why? No, but I love this video, and Jordan was telling me that he and his wife Cody, they were in the other room just dying laughing and doing everything they could not to laugh out loud. But I think this is just exact. It speaks so much to me of living life, living our faith, and sometimes the day to day, the every trying to figure out your faith, you're doing all of the right things. You're following Jesus. You're doing everything you're supposed to, and you're like, is this it? I'm tired of waiting. Some of you have been waiting for a few years. Some of you have been Christians for decades. You're like, I know I'm supposed to live this way and supposed to do this and supposed to do this, and that's what I've been doing, and I'm just tired of waiting. God, Mom, Dad, why? And it's just like, can you come back already? Can you do something? Or can you just, give me a little something to tide me over until eternity? And God's like, I know it feels like forever. And this is like 3.5 minutes. And these kids are about to lose their mind. Probably another 30 seconds, and Lucy would have dumped the bowl. But, and we are just ready. And that's a beautiful thing, to be ready for God and all his glory to come back. But we know that 1 Timothy tells us, and another passage I'm going to blank on, where it's like God wants all people to come to know him, to come to know the truth, and that no one should perish. And he is waiting for us to get on board and actively wait. Like, okay, God, I am waiting. I'm looking forward to what you have for me. And in the meantime, I will actively bring people with me. I will actively wait for you, because that's what you've called me to. That's what you ask of me. I was reminded of Hebrews chapter 11. This chapter, many of you may be familiar with, where we call it in the church the Hall of Faith. And the Hall of Faith, this author mentions 16 people. And what he says for each person, he names Abraham, he names Moses, he names each person and says, by faith they lived. They did this. They did this. And about a little over halfway through, they mention these all died. All these people that they mentioned, the 16 people, these all died in faith, not having received the things promised, but having seen them and greeted them from afar, having acknowledged that they were strangers and exiles on the earth. For people who speak thus make it clear that they are seeking a homeland. If they had been thinking of the land from which they had gone out of, they would have had the opportunity to return. But as it is, they desire for a better country, that is a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared for them a city. These men and women throughout the Hall of Faith, they actively were waiting for God. They knew what he had promised. And when they got tired of waiting, they could have longed for the other country that they came from, longed for the previous land, and just gone back and had exactly what they want. Could have it now, could have the good stuff now. But they were looking forward to a land that was far better, and they knew that. Few quotes I just want to share with you that really have encouraged me, inspired me through the last several years. Many of you have probably heard, I'm sure Patrick's mentioned him, a great theologian named J.I. Packer, and he passed away in 2020, so not too long ago. But J.I. Packer had this to say. It says, once you become aware that the main business that you are here for is to know God, most of life's problems fall into place of their own accord. Once you know that the whole reason we're here is to know God, we get distracted with the everyday life, though. Like, Like, okay, I know. Wait for eternity. But. It's hard. It's hard to find that balance. C.S. Lewis, he said, if you read history, you will find that the Christians who did the most for the present world were precisely those who thought the most of the next. It is since Christians have largely ceased to think of the other world that they have become so ineffective in this world. Church, we can't have that reputation. Like, these people talk about God and all his glory and all this greatness and the city and this eternity. That sounds so great. But they're just like one of us. They're just waiting around. They're waiting for death, as if it were true that, you die, you go back to the earth, and that's it. There's no hope. Is that how we live? Is that what we show to people? Like, we're waiting for such a miraculous eternity, and so we're going to live our lives waiting just the same way that they're waiting for a death to go back to dirt? We can't live like that. We can't afford that for the sake of other people and for the sake of, as my dad says, the worst event, that the Son of God and all his glory comes down and we're like, thanks, God, and we'll put you to death and then we'll just wait. We'll do what everybody else does. You've given everything so we can do what everybody else does. I don't think that's what he had in mind. Last quote, this teacher said, if focusing on eternity does not impact our present, then we have missed the point of both. If focusing on eternity doesn't impact us now, we've missed the point. We've missed the point of one or the other or both. So if you say, well, I'm faithful, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I'm doing this, and but your life is not self-evident of clearly you are waiting for glory, then you're not going to have that impact that C.S. Lewis talked about. The most impact that the Christians that have gone before us what they made was because they set their mind on things above. They loved God with everything in their being. They loved neighbors as they loved themselves. They were the hands and feet of Jesus in everything they did, in their jobs, in their families, in their churches, in their church communities. Wherever they were, they embodied Christ and they were actively waiting. They really thought that Jesus' return was a lot sooner than it is now. And you'll hear a lot of preachers now that say it's just around the corner, it's just around the corner. If we believe that, how would that impact or change how we live today? So that's just my encouragement, my reminder to you guys. Got to get you out of here so we can get Grace into this new family and we can get out of the snow. Thank you for letting me be here, and that is my encouragement, my reminder as we wrap up this year and go into the new year that we don't just sit around waiting for God, hoping that he pours out his goodness and mercy on us, and hope that things work out for us, but that we are faithful and actively living out our faith, that we are looking forward to eternity, all the wonders that he has set for us. I'm going to invite the worship team up and lead us in a song as we close out today. Thank you, church.